If you're watching this video right now, I want you to take a deep breath because something inside you already knows you were meant for more than broken sentences and second-guessing every word. Most English learners never realize this. The biggest mistake isn't your grammar. It's not your accent, and it's definitely not your vocabulary. The biggest mistake is believing that you have to be perfect before you're allowed to speak. Think about it. How many times have you had a full conversation in your head, a perfect one, with the right words, the right tone, but the moment you opened your mouth, fear took over? You're not alone. Millions of learners around the world are stuck in that same silence, waiting for the right time to sound fluent. But here's the truth. Fluency isn't something you wait for. It's something you build, one brave sentence at a time. Today, you're going to discover a different way of learning English. Not through fear, not through memorizing endless rules, but through confidence, rhythm, and real speaking practice. This lesson can change the way you speak English starting today, in the next few minutes. I know what it feels like to want to express yourself and feel like the words just won't come out, right? But I also know this: every fluent speaker you admire once stood exactly where you are now. They weren't born fluent, they simply refused to stay silent. By the end of this video, you're going to walk away with real, practical tools that will help you listen better, repeat smarter, and speak like it's second nature. Not because you memorized it, but because you felt it. So take a breath, sit up a little straighter, and let's begin, because your voice deserves to be heard clearly and confidently. Let's start with the very first step that changes everything. Let's talk about something that's silently slowing down almost every English learner on this planet. Translation. If you're someone who hears a sentence in your own language first, then scrambles to convert it into English before you speak, I want you to know something important. This isn't a flaw in you, it's just a habit. And habits, no matter how deep, can be rebuilt. Here's what's really happening when you translate in your head. Your brain is doing double the work, first thinking in your native language, then searching for matching English words, then rearranging grammar, then finally speaking. By the time all of that happens, the moment has passed, the conversation has moved on, and you're left feeling frustrated, thinking, why can't I just speak naturally? The truth is, natural speech was never meant to be translated. It was meant to be felt. Native speakers don't translate. They think directly in the language they're using. And the beautiful part is, this is a skill you can train starting today. So how do you stop translating and start thinking in English? It begins with small, consistent shifts. Instead of trying to construct perfect sentences in your mind, start narrating your day in simple English right now, in this moment. I am sitting. I am watching a video. I want to learn. It feels small, maybe even silly at first, but this is exactly how your brain builds direct connections between thoughts and English words, without your native language standing in the middle. Another powerful method is to immerse yourself in English content, videos, podcasts, conversations, without pausing to translate every word. Let your brain guess meaning from context. This might feel uncomfortable in the beginning, like walking without a flashlight, but this discomfort is exactly where growth lives. The more you allow yourself to not understand everything perfectly, the faster your brain adapts and starts filling in the gaps naturally. I also want you to release the pressure of getting it right immediately. Thinking in English is not an overnight switch. It's a gradual rewiring, like learning to walk on a new path until it becomes familiar ground. Some days it will feel smooth, other days clumsy. Both are part of progress. Here's something beautiful to hold on to. Every fluent speaker you've ever admired went through this exact same struggle. They too once translated word by word. They too once feared saying something wrong, but they kept showing up, kept practicing, and slowly, English stopped feeling foreign and started feeling like home. So starting today, give yourself permission to think in simple English, even if it's imperfect. Speak to yourself, label your surroundings, react to your day in English, even quietly in your mind. This small shift thinking, instead of translating, is the doorway to real fluency. And once your mind starts thinking in English, your mouth will follow effortlessly. Which brings us beautifully into our next powerful step. There's a quiet little practice that most language learners overlook. Yet it's one of the most powerful tools for building real, natural fluency, and that practice is repetition. Not repetition of grammar rules, not repetition of vocabulary lists. I'm talking about repeating after native speakers, copying their rhythm, their tone, their pauses, their music. Here's something most people don't realize. English isn't just a set of words strung together. It has a melody, it rises and falls, it has stress on certain syllables and softness on others. And this melody is something you cannot learn from a textbook. You can only absorb it by listening closely and repeating it out loud again and again until it becomes part of you. Think about how babies learn language. They don't start with grammar books. They listen, they repeat, they imitate the sounds around them long before they understand meaning. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we convince ourselves that learning has to be complicated, analytical, rule-based. But your brain already knows how to absorb language through imitation. You just have to give it that chance again. This is why shadowing, listening to a native speaker and repeating right after them, matching their pace and tone, is such a game changer. When you shadow a short video clip or a podcast sentence, you're not just learning what to say, you're learning how it feels to say it naturally. Your mouth begins to move in new ways, your ears become sharper. Your confidence quietly grows in the background, even when you don't notice it happening. Start small, choose a short clip, maybe 10 to 15 seconds of a native speaker talking clearly. Listen to it once, just to understand the meaning. Then listen again, and this time, repeat immediately after each phrase, trying to copy their tone, their speed, even their pauses. Do this 3 or 4 times. Don't worry about sounding perfect. This is not a performance, it's practice. It's training your mouth and ears to work together the way a native speaker's does. Over time, you'll notice something beautiful happening. Certain phrases will stop feeling like translated English and start feeling like your own natural way of speaking. You won't have to think about them anymore. They'll simply come out the way your native language does. I also want you to release any embarrassment about repeating out loud. Yes, it might feel strange at first, especially if no one else is doing it. But every confident English speaker you've ever admired spent hours repeating phrases quietly to themselves, in their room, in their car, in front of a mirror, long before anyone ever heard them speak fluently in public. So here's your gentle challenge. Pick one short video today. Just one. Repeat it 3 times with full focus and energy. That's it. That one small act repeated daily is quietly rewiring your brain for fluency. And once your ears and mouth start syncing together like this, you're ready for something even more transformative, understanding why your mistakes are actually a sign of progress, not failure. I want you to sit with this idea for a moment. Every single mistake you've ever made in English was not a step backward. It was a step forward that you didn't recognize yet. If you've been carrying shame or fear around your mistakes, today is the day we gently set that weight down. because it was never yours to carry in the first place. Most learners believe that fluency means never making mistakes. But if you look closely at how every fluent speaker got there, every single one, you'll find a long, messy trail of wrong words, awkward grammar, and mispronounced sentences behind them. Fluency isn't the absence of mistakes. Fluency is what happens after thousands of them. Here's what's really happening in your brain when you make a mistake and then correct it. That moment of noticing, oh, that's not quite right, creates a stronger neural connection than getting it right the first time ever could. Your brain pays closer attention to errors because errors matter to survival and learning. So in a strange, beautiful way, every mistake you make is your brain quietly saying, pay attention here, this is important, and then wiring that lesson in more deeply than before. Think about the fear that usually comes with speaking. That fear whispers, what if I say it wrong? What if they laugh? What if I sound stupid? But I want you to challenge that voice today. Nobody remembers your grammar mistakes. What they remember is your effort, your warmth, your willingness to communicate. People connect with confidence and sincerity, not perfect verb tenses. So instead of avoiding situations where you might make mistakes, start seeking them out. Speak even when you're unsure. Write a sentence even if you're not confident about the grammar. Say the word even if you're not sure of the pronunciation. Each attempt, right or wrong, is data your brain uses to get better. Silence, on the other hand, teaches your brain nothing. Here's a simple shift that changes everything. Instead of thinking, I made a mistake, I'm bad at English, start think, I made a mistake, which means I'm actively learning right now. This single change in perspective takes the sting out of failure and replaces it with curiosity and momentum. I also want you to start keeping a small mistake journal, not to criticize yourself, but to celebrate growth. Each time you notice an error, write it down along with the correct version. Over weeks, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. One small correction at a time. Remember, a child learning to walk falls down dozens of times before taking a steady step. And no, one tells that child to give up. You deserve the same patience and grace as you learn to speak fluently. So the next time you stumble over a sentence, smile a little, because that stumble is proof that you're growing. And once you start embracing mistakes instead of fearing them, you're ready for the next step, training your ear so your mouth naturally follows. Here's a question I want you to sit with. Have you ever tried to pronounce a word correctly, over and over, but it just never sounds quite right, no matter how hard you try? If that sounds familiar, I want you to know the problem usually isn't your mouth, it's your ear. And once you understand this, everything about your speaking journey starts to shift. Most learners jump straight into speaking practice, trying to force their mouth to produce sounds it has never truly heard clearly before. But think about it logically. How can you accurately reproduce a sound your ear hasn't fully learned to recognize yet? This is why training your ear isn't a sidestep in your learning journey. It's actually the foundation everything else is built on. When you were a child learning your first language, you didn't start by speaking. You spent months, sometimes over a year, simply listening, absorbing sounds, recognizing patterns. Long before you said your first word, your ear had already done enormous work quietly in the background. English works exactly the same way. Your ear needs time and exposure before your mouth can confidently follow. So how do you train your ear intentionally? Start by listening to the same short piece of audio multiple times, not to understand every word intellectually, but to notice the sound of the language. Notice where the voice rises, where it softens, where words blend together. English speakers often connect words in ways that surprise learners. Want to becomes wanna, going to becomes gonna. If your ear isn't trained to recognize this natural blending, real conversations will always feel too fast, even if your vocabulary is strong. Try this simple exercise. Choose a short video clip, no more than 20 to 30 seconds. Listen to it with your eyes closed, focusing only on the sound and rhythm, not the meaning. Do this 3 or 4 times. Notice how your brain starts recognizing familiar patterns, even subtle ones you missed the first time. This is your ear becoming trained, quietly and steadily. I also want you to be patient with this process. Training your ear isn't a one-day achievement. It happens gradually, almost invisibly, until one day you realize you understood a fast conversation without even trying to translate it. That moment, when it comes, will feel like a quiet little miracle you built for yourself. Once your ear becomes familiar with these natural sounds and rhythms, something beautiful happens. Your mouth stops struggling. Pronunciation starts feeling more natural because you're no longer guessing how something should sound. You already know because you've heard it enough times for it to live inside you. So today, give your ears the practice they deserve. Listen more than you speak, especially in the beginning. Let your brain absorb the music of English before demanding perfect pronunciation from yourself. And once your ear and mouth are finally working together in harmony, there's only one thing left standing between you and real fluency: the courage to speak before you. Feel ready? I want to tell you something that might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but I promise it will set you free. You will never feel 100% ready to speak English. Not today, not next month, not even after years of practice. And here's the secret: you don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. So many learners fall into what I call the waiting trap. They tell themselves, once I learn more vocabulary, I'll speak. Once my grammar improves, I'll speak. Once I feel confident, I'll speak. But confidence doesn't come before speaking, it comes from speaking. It's not a gift you receive before you start. It's something you build, sentence by sentence, conversation by conversation, through the very act of doing the thing that scares you. Think about anything you've ever gotten good at in your life. Riding a bike, cooking a new dish, using a new phone. Did you wait until you felt fully confident before trying? Of course not. You tried clumsily at first, made a few mistakes, adjusted, and slowly, confidence arrived as a result of your effort, not as a requirement before it. The same is true for speaking English. That shaky feeling in your chest before you say something out loud, that's not a sign you're not ready. That's simply what growth feels like in the moment it's happening. Every fluent speaker has felt that exact same nervousness before finding their voice. Here's a gentle truth I want you to hold on to. People are far more forgiving and encouraging than the fear in your mind makes them out to be. Most people you speak English with are not silently judging your grammar. They're focused on connecting with you, understanding you, appreciating your effort to communicate. The harshest critic in the room is almost always the voice inside your own head, not the person you're speaking to. So here's your challenge, starting today. Find one small opportunity to speak English, even if it's imperfect. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Record a 30-second voice note describing your day. Strike up a simple conversation with someone, even if you stumble over a few words. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is momentum. Each time you speak despite the fear, you're proving to yourself that you're capable, and that proof builds real, lasting confidence. Remember, fluency is not a finish line you cross one day and suddenly feel complete. It's a living, growing skill, one that strengthens every single time you choose courage over. comfort, action over hesitation. So don't wait for the perfect moment because it will never arrive on its own. Create it. Speak today, even if it's just one sentence. Speak tomorrow, even if it's still a little shaky. And little by little, you will look back and realize that the version of you who was once afraid to speak has quietly, beautifully become fluent. Your voice matters, your effort matters, and your English journey, starting right now, is only getting stronger from here.